Hey guys, Holo1 here. Welcome back to another video, and today we're here with my baby. This is Lionel 6-18006, a Red & Company T1 number 2100. So if you guys haven't seen any of my previous videos on this engine, I recommend you go check them out. I bought this engine almost 5 years ago now, which is insane. But at the time, it was just an original 6-18006 T1 number 2100 with digital rail sounds. It wasn't anything special except for the fact that it was owned by me. This was the first scale locomotive that I ever purchased, and it still holds so much sentimental value to me, and I love it dearly. I could have left this thing original and been happy with it for years, but instead I decided to paint it into the Iron Horse Ramble scheme that you see here. So I painted the handrails on the locomotive, the grab iron on the back of the cab, the grab irons on the tender, the ladder on the rear of the tender, and the steps on the pilot, all yellow. I then went in and painted the handrail that goes around the tender deck black. I white-walled the pilot truck. I added the silver to the steam chest and the grill that covers the air compressors up front, and added gold to the pop-off valves, the whistle, and some of the other valves that are up on top of the locomotive. At the time, I also redid the coal load, which I ended up redoing more recently with a more accurate-looking coal load, so instead of the ones that were the size of your head, but you know, you live and you learn. And this engine, at the time, looked absolutely fantastic. After I had finished painting it, I decided I want this engine to run as good as it looked. So I sent the original Pullmore motor over to Timco's repair depot, and he pulled off the press-fit U-joint and slid it onto a DC can motor and sent the original Pullmore and the DC can motor back to me. So I have all the original electronics for this engine, which is really cool. The DC can motor allowed me to put in Electric Railroad's Cruise Commander in the tender, and instead of using one of the original Electric Railroad sound sets that they offer, I wanted to do something a little more custom. So I got the sound card from the Lionel 779 Nickel Plate Road Berkshire and threw it in this locomotive. So this has that sound card back when Lionel would actually sell the Rail Sounds 4 cards, which I greatly regret not buying a lot more of them, but whatever, it is what it is. But yeah, so this engine now sounded the part, it ran great, it's got cruise control, and it operated in TMCC, which was really all I could ask for. But there was one detail that I've always wanted to add that I just didn't know how until recently, and I didn't know what materials to get. And those are the flags that go on the front of the boiler. Every T1 that you see in the Iron Horse Rambles has the white excursion flags, or white extra train flags, on the front of the boiler. And even the Reading and Northern's 2102, when they run it, they have the white flags up front. And I really want that feature on this engine to make it look like the Iron Horse Rambles T1. So I finally got the materials to do it. I got some brass tubing and some brass wire, and today we're going to add those beautiful white flags to the front of this beautiful engine. So here's what I got. I got this .032 81 or .81 mil brass rod, and I got some of this 1.5 mil by .225 mil brass tubing. So this is going to be the holder for the flags, and this will be the shaft for the flags, and hopefully these will be removable. Obviously it'd be pretty easy just to get a brass wire and just glue the flags to the front, but I kind of want to be able to take the flags in and out just because I think that'd be a neat feature. Also, if they were just glued to the front, I can guarantee you within 5 minutes I would break one off, because that's just my track record with that kind of thing. So if this tube is slightly too big, I do have some smaller brass wire that came out of a Red Caboose kit that I built, and I can use this for the flagpoles. But let's get out one of these tubes, and I can make sure that the rod fits in it first, and we can start mocking it up on the locomotive. Fits like a glove. That's really nice. So they do make cutters for brass wire and brass tubing. I don't have one because I don't do this enough, and also I don't know if this pipe's actually big enough to use one of those. So I'm going to try to attack it with some wire cutters here, and hopefully it also pinches off the bottom of the tubing so that I don't need to solder something onto the bottom of it to prevent the flag from just falling all the way to the bottom. So let's give that a shot here. keep forgetting how heavy this engine is until I go to pick it up. Okay, let's do something, I don't know, about yay long. So like there-ish. Let's see. Oh yeah. Snipped right through it, and it crimped the end for me. So now I should be able to just slide my wire in. Yep, and it doesn't come out the bottom, which is perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. So now I gotta cut another identical length piece. The problem I am now realizing is that it crimps both ends. So we're just gonna use the other end of the tubing because I'll figure out how to actually cut this thing properly later. I could probably go at this with a Dremel and, you know, call it good, but I don't really want to do that. I just kind of want to, you know, do this quick and easy because that's the spirit of this engine. Okay. Are they a little long? Yeah, probably, but I think that they will look just fine on the front of this engine. So let me, as much as I would like to solder these, I think I'm just going to try and glue them first, just to see how well it holds. If it doesn't hold well, then I'll start soldering it, but soldering this is going to suck because it's all die cast and it's going to take forever to warm up enough to actually hold solder. So let's hope the glue works. Kind of forgot that there's a screw up here that should allow me to just, yep, pop the whole boiler front off. So that'll make my life about 1,000 times easier. By the way, it does have the original mechanical puffer in it, so it does chuff 2 times per revolution because of the cam I have in the tender, but or the Hall effect sensor that's in the tender. It's the original Hall effect sensor. I didn't use the magnets that Electric Railroad sells, but it has 2 chuffs per rev, but the mechanical puffer only puffs once per revolution, which matches the original chuff rate of the digital rail sounds. I have no intention of going in here and replacing this with a fan-driven smoke unit. They cost a lot of money, and it's a lot of work to try to retrofit it. So I'm just going to leave the mechanical puffer in here, and I'll get a fan-driven smoke unit when I eventually buy one of the legacy versions of this engine, hopefully in the freight scheme, so that I can run it in era with the rest of my stuff while this sits pretty on a shelf. So that actually worked really well. I've got them positioned at like between the 4th and 5th rivet from the bell, which is about where they are in real life. But while those are drying, I'm going to crack out the yellow paint and touch up some of the areas that are starting to fall apart. It's fun going through here and seeing all the bits that I missed or didn't paint because I wasn't as good back when I originally did this. But I touched up the rear grab iron, the main handrail. I fixed some of the paint that was flaking off down here. I also redid some of the pilot step. And I'm going to try and do underneath of this front grille. It's going to be difficult. I'm going to have to be really careful, but I think I can do it. I would like to correct that. That would be nice. But I'm going to let this dry for a little bit so that I don't have to worry about manipulating it. And while this is drying, now that the stanchions are pretty well set, I'm going to try and make the actual flags using that rod and I think some paper. Also, if you're wondering what paint I'm using, it's just this gloss yellow from Testers, RIP. Yeah, that's the closest color match I found to what the yellow that was on it was. So I don't know what size these are. If I had to estimate, maybe a 1/4 inch by I don't know, 3/8 maybe? Yeah. That seems to be about the right size for the flags, just by eyeballing it. So I'm going to throw it on the brass wire now, and we'll see how it looks. So I realized I need to paint the flag masts before I put the flags on, so I'm just using some Testors flat black. And I'm going to do the little posts, or the stand-ins, or whatever you call these, as well as the flag masts themselves. So I think the idea is there. They're just a little small, so I'm going to cut some bigger ones, and we'll see how they look. So I basically doubled the size of the flag, and these look a lot more like the prototype when I mock them up against the actual locomotive. So that's what I'm going to roll with. So I'm going to cut and paint some new masts and slide them in, and we'll see how they look. While I was waiting for the stanchions to dry, I figured I'd go ahead and paint the bell. So that's now actually gold, like it's supposed to be, instead of the silver. It looks really nice. I painted the little bell thing red, like the actual little bobber thing. I don't know where I originally saw this. I don't know if this was a common thing that was done, or if there's a reason that some of them are red, but I like the red ball. I don't know. It looks neat in my opinion. It's a nice little contrast. But anyway, pretty sure these masts are dry enough now where I can attach the flags. So let's do that. Throw the boiler back on, or the boiler front back on, and give it a look. You know, every time I make a modification to this engine, I always think it's going to be some small, unnoticeable change that you're going to have to know that it changed in order to see it. And most of the time I'm proven wrong, and this is definitely one of those. Those flags look so good, and they definitely add to this model. And for a brass tube, a brass wire, and some paper, that's really nice. So I can't wait to see it in action. This weekend I get to actually run at our club layout. So I'll be bringing this engine, and despite it being in the Ramble scheme, I always run it with freight cars because it's really the only freight engine I have. It's really the only freight locomotive I have, period, other than my Jeeps. I like passenger trains, so as evident by the fact that this is a passenger train, but whatever. I'll be running it with freight. But yeah, so without further ado, let's get into that.
Big one. Hey, yo, I am afraid of you. You don't like that, huh? Okay. That's a long train, huh? Look at all those cars. So many cars on the train.
So there you have it. That's another beautiful detail added to this already beautiful locomotive. And it was really interesting when I was running this at the store. I didn't realize it, but this engine really turns heads. When I had pulled it out and I put it on the backtrack, it was going to be the last train that I ran because the Reading T1 has, at least when I bought it, was this really obscure engine that not a lot of people knew about. But since I bought this, the Reading and Northern has restored 2102 to operation. I've actually gone to see that engine, and it's absolutely incredible. And the American Steam Railroad is continuing to work on 2100 and nearing, well, I don't want to say nearing completion, but they're getting there. Although that engine won't be in this paint scheme, like you see here, it will be in American Freedom Train 250, which is going to look absolutely incredible. But since those projects have really taken off, the Reading T1 is a lot more of a common name. And it was awesome to see when I pulled this off the backtrack and finally put it on my freight train. Just all the kids in the store come running over with their iPads and their phones to record this thing. One of them had apparently been waiting for me to put it on so that he could record it because he absolutely loves these engines. And that was absolutely heartwarming and just the coolest thing. But I hope you all learned something from this video. I know it was a relatively small detail, but flags have always been an interesting challenge, I want to say, for people that don't necessarily have railroads with class lights, like the Reading. Is one of those things that seems super daunting until you actually sit down for a little bit and think about how to do it and plan it out. So hopefully this helps you guys get started on a project similar to this if you guys are thinking about adding flags to any of your locomotives, or just helps you get started on any other project that you guys are working on. Along with the flags, the coal load, which I mentioned briefly before, if you want to know how I did that, go check out my Reading Camelback video. I talk about the process that I used to actually make the coal load there. It's basically just Michael's decorative sand or whatever, along with typical scenery application techniques. So glue and water, wet water / isopropyl alcohol, and a lot of patience. And it looks really good. So if you guys are interested in that, go check out that video. It is towards the end. I know it's a long video, but if you want to support the channel, you could watch the whole thing. But I'm not going to subject you onto that. It's right before the running shots, basically. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you all learned something from this. I'm CW Hollow One, and have a good day, or maybe good night in your case. See ya.